education for that one purpose. I suspect it will never get anywhere.
I think the problem is multifaceted. It's I think the foundation budgets that the state sets for communities are ridiculously low and not realistic in terms of what's required to educate a child. There is the percentage of money that goes to the large cities it's tremendous.
Huge.
It's huge, and that's the way the formula is set up. And you know, you do have cities like Cambridge spending between $20,000 and $25,000 per student, and so when you get into these discussions where in Cambridge I don't think they've ever had to levy a fee, and some of the input has been, well, those school districts levying fees are wrong.
Right.
They should not levy fees and cut all of the programs that they're running. And so I write back and say that means we'd have to cut everything, but you know, 7 to 2 or 8 to 4, 8 to 3, because everything else runs on fees. And you can't, you know, and the idea they have is that if we cut the fees, it'll be so drastic that the legislature will have to do something. And my fear is, no, it'll take them 3 or 4 years still to do something, and by then, public education will be in a shambles. And so that, you know, that's the essence of the debate that's going back and forth, is that, you know, you're wrong for, I do think we're wrong for assessing fees, but I don't think we have a choice. And that's the problem. And I do think when Carl comes back to us with a level funding budget, it's not going to be a level funded budget. It's not going to be a very pretty picture. And I think I honestly think that that's what we're going to, at best, end up with for next year, is a level funded budget. So good luck, Carl. We'll look forward to. I guess we'll look forward to getting that next week. And we do continue to meet with the finance planning team, and they're on the same, school, the selectmen and the FinCom and the town administrator are on the same page as us in terms of where the revenues are going to be next year. So, all right, thanks, Carl. Okay, what time is it? Proposal, the 2008-9 calendar change, and then after that, we have a report, and I hope some discussion on some of Dr. Troton's ideas for the 2009-2010 calendar. Dr. Troton?
Right. Making a recommendation to alter the current school year calendar. Again, this is the reason I'm making this recommendation is because of the budget situation that we find ourselves in for the current fiscal year, and then also ultimately setting the stage for some changes and reorganization next year. Our current school calendar that the committee approved last spring includes 187 scheduled days, which is broken down to 182 student days plus 5 snow days. And I'm recommending that we decrease from 182 student days to the state minimum, which is 180 days. So this would cut 2 days off of the student calendar. And it would not affect the it should not affect the end of the school year, the last date, because what we still have by contract, we're required to, teachers are required to work 183 days. One of those days is work before school starts on the orientation day, and then there are 2 additional days that we would have to schedule. So in this change, I would propose that we reduce and eliminate the remaining early release days. There are 4 of them: February, March, April, and May, and then replace it with 2 full-day teacher professional development, one in March, on March 25th and one on May. There would be no student days, but it would be staff days.
That still gives the teachers 183.
It still brings to 183. The savings here comes from 2 fewer bus days, transportation days, and also because our paraprofessional contract is tied to the number of student days, then we would be decreasing 2 of those days as well.
How does that work on the, since we signed a contract for a 3-year contract, whatever it is, we approved for the bus, how do we save money if we cut days? Is it fuel costs or?
It's a per diem cost for busing.
Oh, okay.
Busing is purely per day. Each bill that we receive each month is based on the number of days transported within that month. So if we cut back 2 days, we will realize those savings as we progress through the year.
Okay. So that's $15,000 in total costs.
Approximately.
And the reason you, so those half days would have been for teacher development workshops or
Correct.
professional development workshops, so
Right.
instead they'll do those on those 2
On
days.
those 2 days.
And we'll have full school days for them.
Correct.
Now, are those professional development days scheduled for Wednesdays? Because those are days that like the afternoon pre-K and kindergarten students would have been out anyway.
That's why we chose March 25th and May 6th, which was one of the 4 early release days. Another way to think about this is that we're clearly concerned about daycare, so we're going from the 4 early release days, which create its own set of issues, to 2 full days.
Any questions or comments on assume you want to vote on this calendar. We can vote on this calendar first, correct?
There's been quite a lot of discussion about this, and again, part of this dealing with the budget deficit this year, some of the other proposals that have been discussed included ways to save on heat, to close on December 22nd and 23rd. We felt, though, that while that was an interesting proposal, and you'll see it as one of the versions for next year, to get a longer block of time when the building is closed, the fact that it's several weeks away, or now 2 weeks away, to turn that over to parents and say, find daycare, and there are a lot of other activities that are planned, it just is too soon.
Can I ask you a question? When you talk about saving on heat because you close the buildings early, does that really hold true for the middle school and high school? Aren't they open for sports anyway?
Well, that would have to be one of the questions we would answer when we were discussing the proposals that Dr. Troughton referred to. We began talking about that. Are we talking about a total closure where the doors are locked and no one enters the building? Or are we intending to make exceptions for athletic practices and what have you? I don't think we ever really reached that conclusion. But your point's well taken. As soon as you open the door, you have the arc lighting and the gym goes on and another heat takes place. Also, is it, from a health point of view, is it appropriate to allow people into a building where the thermostat's set at 55, even if it is practice?
All right, let's go home.
I was going to say, what's it say?
Home now.
My water's frozen.
I don't think it is appropriate.
It does. I think it defeats the purpose if you open the buildings at night. I think you would have to close. I think you would have to close the buildings completely because you'd have to turn the heat on. I don't think you want people in here when it's 55 degrees or less, and so I think you just have to close them completely. But as David says, given that the 22nd and 23rd are only 2 weeks away, that's really not enough notice on a lot of levels in terms of daycare and things that may be planned at the schools already. So I think for this year.
And what about heating zones? Are the 2 middle school and high school, are the buildings set up so that the gyms are separately zoned and you can heat for just gym use?
And the older buildings have larger zones with less capability of earmarking. Batchelder School, you can literally zone by classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And the At the high school, I believe that zone isn't just the auditorium, I think it's all of A-Wing. So you don't have the ability to confine zones right to the extent you'd like to. And remember, you're turning on that boiler.
Right.
I also want to mention, the public isn't aware of how cold it is in this room tonight. But,
I
that
think
wasn't.
you've got a hint by now.
Put your hands up, Ms. Baca.
I left my gloves in the car and I wish I had.
I think that the univent behind the
It's not
the
working.
chair is not
Right.
working. And
It's
so
correctly not
that's
working.
a malfunction more than anything else. There's only one univent in this room
Well, that one's
working
working,
today.
and
Right.
actually,
Yeah.
Mr. Fauché said this one was turned off because of the sound.
I think in the future we can
Yeah.
That's what it
deal with the sound.
Plus, we're on a concrete
Meet in the
slab.
back.
Right,
so
we're on a
that
slab
just-
too, right, right.
That just freezes your feet. We all need little footstools.
We'll be looking into that, so.
That's a football.
We're only kidding, Cal.
Right. we're on-
But it just, to me, when we talk about, accommodating the winter season, shutting down the buildings, I'm just not envisioning that we really can. And even if an outside group says, oh, I'll pitch in for the heat, would they heat the whole A-wing?
Right. Just to play in the gym.
So I'm not sure how
Well,
much.
that's the dilemma, because it also, if we did that, we're not, but had we closed in 2 weeks in December, it would have really adversely affected high school winter sports practice.
Well, yeah, there's
Right.
where are they gonna, and that's, when we talk about next year, that's one of the questions. If we close on these days, and we're essentially closing to save money on heating the building, the minute the high school sports team comes in, I think we defeat the purpose.
Oh, they could just practice outside where it's warm.
Right, exactly.
Basketball,
Oh, that's a good.
Okay.
Yeah, basketball. Any other comments, David, on, what, I guess my question for you is so there's no issue with the teachers union on this, by changing the school schedule at this time?
It doesn't affect the teacher's schedule.
And my recollection is the contract doesn't call for the specific
Start
As long-
with-
days
as
of
long as the
planning
number of
time, as long as
days-
the planning time is there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And I'm just curious as to administrators' reaction to this. Are they having the 2 days off versus the 4 half-days?
Well, it will require some change, particularly at the elementary level, because that last early release day in May is typically used for, planning the next year's class, second to third, third to fourth, and so forth. So that's why we kept it as late on May 6th. And of course, in the whole months of March, April, and May, you're also planning around all the MCAS tests, which are virtually, week-long, days and days and days, so.
One other question I have is on the paraprofessionals. We're changing this in the middle of the year. Is there anything in the contract that we have to?
I've notified the president of the paraprofessionals. The contract says that the paraprofessionals will work the student year.
And the cafeteria workers as well?
I don't
Is
believe
there-
this will impact the cafeteria
Okay.
workers, because what will happen in effect is the 4 half-days,
Yeah.
2 of the 4
So work
half-days
2
will
more
be converted
days.
to full days, so
Right.
it actually, strangely enough, I believe, will add 2
They'll
work
work
days.
2 more days.
There you
Two
go.
work days to food service.
So it's a wash.
Yeah.
Can't please everyone.
Any other questions or comments on the recommended changes to the 2008-2009 school calendar?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Vaca, can I have a second? Second by Mr. Bowers. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. That one was easy.
So we're gonna vote on this one tonight?
No.
Good.
No.
We're not gonna vote on it.
Good.
We'll just have some I think we need to have some discussion though.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we start, can I just ask who labeled this smart reorganization, just so I know?
All
before
this
we
is
begin?
smart reorganization. That's the
Is that,
superintendent.
that was your, all right, I just wanted to know before I say anything stupid.
Take full responsibility.
All right.
There will be a lot of smart reorganization ideas coming up.
Might be a couple of the genius ones, huh?
So I think it's not too early to start talking about the future. And typically we'll wait until the late spring to settle the calendar. but I put out here,